Anyway, I think it's safe to say that we're all here because of Mary, and I know I'm grateful to the work that she's doing. I've personally had several family members who suffered strokes, and our public health department staff is grieving today. We found out this morning one of our young employees who's been with us for a number of years suffered an aneurysm yesterday and unfortunately passed away.
Oh no!
So it's just another dire reminder to us, and this is what our staff was talking about this morning, that it can happen to anybody at any time. And that's why this work that Mary is doing is so important. So it's just another reminder. So it's important to come here and talk about this today. I'm going to talk about health equity. And health equity is a very complicated subject, and I'm going to cover it in 5 minutes, I believe. So I will probably leave you with more answers than more questions than you came with, but that just starts the conversation. So we're going to talk about what is health equity briefly. So what we're going to talk about is what is it, why is it important, and what are some of the obstacles to health equity. So here's one definition of health equity. And most people, when we talk about health equity, will think that this already exists. They say, well, this is common sense. Of course, everybody has the opportunity to reach their full potential for health. And if it were truly an equitable society, everyone would have these things. And a lot of people will say, well, people do have all of these things available to them. If they're not healthy, it's because of personal choices that they make. So, I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know if going into this conversation, if you feel that everyone has equal opportunities, but I'm going to show you some examples that demonstrate that we don't all have the same opportunities. And this is a graphic you may have seen before, and I think this really helps to explain. So the first thing in understanding health equity is to understand that everyone is not the same. And I know that one of our attendees over here spoke about the inequities associated with mental illness. That if you're affected by mental illness, you are at a disadvantage as far as your health. So that's one example of health inequities. So recognizing in this picture on the left, people who are not all the same, people say, well, everybody should have the same thing. We just give everybody the same thing. So if you give everybody the same size box, then you see what happens when everyone's not the same. Not everybody has the same opportunities, not everybody has the same outcomes. So what we really want to look at is health equity, which means that some people are going to need a little bit more assistance, and so we want to give those that need more assistance the extra assistance they need. Some people see that as unfair, but this is a visual demonstration of why that's important. So here's some examples of health inequities. And the first example shows how you can have different health outcomes based on a person's education level. The second example shows how you can have different health outcomes based on a person's race. So when we look at diabetes risk, when we look at infant mortality, we know that we have to pay special attention to certain groups to reduce their risk. Just a couple other examples. The first one is based on different outcomes due to your personal income. The second example is different health outcomes, again, due to education. Okay, so why? Why people will always say, well, why do we have these things? Why should it matter? Why do all those things impact your health? And one of the things I say in every conversation is, everything impacts health, impacts everything. And so, as a society, we can't just look at education, we can't just look at housing, we can't just look at mental health, we can't just look at overall health, we can't just look at poverty. We have to work together towards a common agenda to address all of these things. And so, these are some of the things that have caused some of the health inequities that we see, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So we've already talked about how education impacts health and how race impacts health. So this takes it back one step further. And what we see here is that your education that you're able to achieve is also impacted by your race. We see that ethnic minorities don't achieve the same educational outcomes as white people. And so then that puts you at a further disadvantage. So if you have a disadvantage in achieving your education, and then if you don't achieve your education, that's going to impact your health, that's a double whammy that you have to overcome. And so we have to, what begins here is recognizing these differences, acknowledging these differences, and working together to address it. And there's a lot of this that goes ignored, but it is real, and it is something that we're not going to see the improvements in health if we don't acknowledge the differences. So what can we do about it? So we have to start with where people live. I talked about health equity at another event a couple days ago, and we look at the environment that babies are born into. So it starts when they're first born. It starts in the neighborhoods that they live in, it starts in the homes that they live in. And so that's where we have to start. We really have to start early. We have to start with the children. We have to focus on housing. We have to focus on the economy. We have to focus on air quality. And one of the areas that is maybe one of the more simpler to attack is school. So this shows a circle because, again, when we talk to people that are in education, a lot of times they're just focused on education. They don't understand why the health community is concerned about education. And the education community may not be as concerned about health. But this is what we know. As we said, your education impacts your health. And we also know that health impacts education. So this kind of reiterates what I said. This is how your education level will impact your health. This is why, as public health, we want to see improvement in third grade reading level. We want to see more children graduating from high school. We want to see more people going to college, making a good wage, so that they're able to do the things that they need to do to protect their health. So then here's how health impacts the school. These are all issues that school children are dealing with. All of these health issues, if we're not looking at those health issues, impact their ability to get an education, and then that vicious circle begins. So we need to improve school completion rates. As I mentioned, we all need to work together on early childhood education. We need to start with the babies. We need to start when they're born. We need to look at the environment they're born into. We need to encourage parents to read to their children. We need to give them the best start that we can. And we need to focus on the school completion rates. And then we also need to improve living conditions to reduce some of these inequities. And we need to start with housing. I was at another meeting yesterday where we were talking about housing, and I said, you know, we in San Joaquin County, we have more people in this county than we have housing available for. And I'm not just talking about the homeless people that you see in tents. I'm talking about working professionals who are losing their homes for one reason or another and have no place to go because there are not enough houses available. And people don't necessarily believe that, but then I remind them that last year, San Joaquin County had the second highest growth percentage of any county in California. The 2 years before, we were #1 in growth. We have grown by almost 100,000 people in the last 3 years. And how much new construction have you seen happening in those 3 years? You can't continue to have an increase in population, not build more housing, and think that you're not going to have people homes. So that's just an easy fact. So people can say it's not real, but it's real. So we also need to support strategies that create health-promoting communities. We need to focus on the environment. We need to make sure that every community in this county has sidewalks, so it's safe for people to walk, for children to ride their skateboards, their scooters, their bicycles, without being in the street. We need bike lanes. We need crosswalks. We need green space. We need parks that are safe for people to go and get exercise. We need clean air. And we also need to work on not allowing more liquor stores into neighborhoods and getting more services to the people what they need, the access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Every time I turn around, there's another tobacco store opening or another liquor store, and that's not helping anybody's health. So, you know, we as a community need to stand up and say we don't need any more of that. We need stores that are selling fresh fruits and vegetables to our disadvantaged communities where they don't have to spend $3 for a head of lettuce. And that's health equity in a very quick nutshell.